Health supplements and functional foods, legal developments, ingredient news, education, inspiration, entertainment, insider in the afternoon.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Insider in the Afternoon. It's really good to see you. I'm Todd Runestad.
I'm Ola Lassard.
And we
are the cofactors.
Cofactors. we I don't know if we're getting better at it, but we're going to keep trying. It's fine.
We're just gonna, yeah.
So
we're entertained.
We have a really good show today. I'm excited to. We're gonna end strong with the last of our three from the supply side West ingredient idol winner, and this is for the immunity category. So the number one best of show immunity ingredient. We'll be talking about that in just 15 minutes, maybe 14 minutes now. And then we also have our legal eagle, Josh Long, and we are going to talk about N-acetylcysteine. It's a really timely topic. Amazon has pulled it off the market, and we're going to talk to Josh about just what the ramifications in the market are and whether Josh can actually say N-acetylcysteine 3 times fast. I'm taking the under. So, hey, Ola, you know, when I think of N-acetylcysteine, I think of like ever since antioxidant became a household word, you know, like 20, 25 years ago, it just occurs to me that like antioxidant is like a chemistry word, but like it rolls off the tongue now and everybody everyone is able to say it, you know, so like N-acetylcysteine, it goes by NAC, right? You know, that. But then there's all kinds of ingredient names in the supplements world, in the ingredients world, that are just like these weird chemistry names, and people have it. Like here's another one, like DHA. Everybody knows, well, docosahexaenoic acid. Let's just call it DHA or EPA. You know, epinocanoic acid. EPA, DHA. Like what do you got? Aren't there all kinds of like weird? You know,
there are. And I think the thing that always throws people is, you know, those of us that are in the marketing world in this industry keep telling everyone like, you know, you should look for simple ingredients, natural ingredients. And then, you know, we have on our supplement facts panels, you know, gamma-linolenic acid, you know, and it sounds terrifying. I mean, great for you. Women love it, but it doesn't sound like something you should want. You know, and then I was thinking about other ones, you know, there's like now, of course, with all the CBD stuff, it's, you know, tetrahydrocannabinol and, you know, is it cannabinoids or cannabinoids? And I mean, these are all really weird sounding words.
I was like hip after midnight listening to Pink Floyd in college saying, you know, I can't even remember what, you know, but whatever THC is now, like tetrahydrocannabinol. You know, it's like, oh, what's that? You know, lysergic acid diethylamide. Oh my God, he knows that. You know, oh, he must be a smart guy. You know, like PQQ, that's another one that goes along with.
What is PQQ?
PQQ is mitochondria biogenesis, and it stands for. Look,
Okay, see, I feel better now that I didn't know, because if you don't know, I feel like I don't.
Mitochondria biogenesis. I'm talking about $3 words. Pyroquinoline, quinoa. People can't even pronounce quinoa. You know, I mean, that's not even a supplement thing. It's you know, here's another one. IP6, you know, inositol hexaphosphate. I remember hearing about that. There was research on it about cancer that was in Asia. But so it's interesting. A lot of these like huge, long $3 words, they're just chemistry words. And so we just make letters after them, anecdotes. You know, I mean, I think.
Yeah, but don't you think it is confusing for people? I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, so we keep telling people simple ingredients. It should be, you know, it shouldn't sound like a chemistry book, but it does sound like a chemistry book, and it's not wrong, right? I mean, these are actually what the ingredients are called, and we should be using the right terms.
Yeah. So like even like Gaia herbs, they're all about herbs. I was just checking this out, and it's got, you know, ginkgo biloba. You know, so like all the plants, they have their Latin binomials.
Oh, yeah.
And that's cool. But then I was like, there's lemon balm, and the Latin word for lemon balm.
Oh,
you know what it is?
I know.
It's Melissa officinalis. And it just occurred to me, like, I love Melissa. I went to the Gaia Farms and I was like, oh my God, there's like a big row of Melissa. And I'm thinking, instead of all these like weird Latin binomial words, why don't we just name all herbs girls' names? You know, like, oh, that's Melissa.
Like boats.
That's Jill. Look, oh, and then we can name like minerals, you know, guy names. Like instead of like granite, you know, and like, you know, sandstone, it's like, oh, there's Eric, there's Joey.
No, this will not work because now you've dated somebody with that name and you're like, I never want to ever think about, you know, John again. But, you know, we've named something really important a John, and this is not going to work, Todd. This is a bad plan.
Well, isn't a John made
It's
out
like
of
getting a tattoo on your arm of that, like, you know, that person and then having to get them all crossed out. Seemed like a good idea the first time. Right. When I got my first tattoo, I was 18 and I went to this absolute shack in New Hampshire on the coast where like they were illegal in Massachusetts. And so you had to go over the border. Right. So, and I remember there was this big dude and he had like literally like, oh, there was a guy tattooing me. That's what Rooster's Tattoo Shack in like Hampton, New Hampshire. And it was a shack. And Rooster was doing my tattoo and he had like the whole like various names crossed out down the line. And I was like, that just seems like a bad idea. And he's like, oh yeah, no, it totally is. Because then once there's one, then the next woman is like, oh, really? You put her name? You're not going to put my name? So it's just, right. I don't think we should do the women's names.
Ooh, I see where you're getting. Yeah, that's another bad idea from Todd. I'm full of them. You know, every once in a while, there's a good one. It's a thin line, you know.
But you know, to your point, it's fair. It's very confusing for people. So I don't know. We need a solution. Maybe
because even you know, I was looking at probiotics, and probiotics is another thing where you know,
Lactobacillus rhamnosus. What is it? Right. And
like,
we make probiotics.
It used to be like acidophilus, and even that's a $3 word, but it's actually Lactobacillus acidophilus. And then there are strains like H1N1 you know, on the end of that.
Yep.
Oh my God. I mean, you actually traffic in all that now. Like you're in a probiotics company and you're in a hemp company. So you're like Miss $3 word.
We like to confuse people. I'll tell you, and it's not easy proofing these, you know, when you're trying to do the packaging either. I'm like, I will not catch that typo in 1 million years on, you know, Bifidobacterium bifidum. I give up. So, whew. But it's important stuff.
Bifidobacterium bifidum. Let's see if Josh can say N-acetylcysteine 3 times fast.
That's what I want to see. Please do, Josh.
Josh, come on the line here. Let's talk a little bit about NAC. How are you, Josh? How's it going?
I'm good. Enjoying a conversation.
Nice. So, you know, I remember the first time when we were in professional company and you were having a conversation with a few distinguished lawyers and you first, you know, like fair enough, you were like NAC, you know, and you were, you know, politely, you know, everyone just said, oh, it's NAC or N-acetylcysteine. It kind of reminded me, my daughter, when she first saw that the brown delivery truck, you know that company that delivers packages, not FedEx.
Not familiar with them. Yeah.
What's the name of the company?
UPS.
It's UPS, right? But there's my daughter. She's like, look, Dad, it's the UPS truck. And like her friend in the back seat of the car was like, oh my God, Cassidy, it's not UPS, it's UPS. But it's like, what, you know, why shouldn't it be UPS? Why shouldn't it be NAC? So knick-knack paddywhack, what's going on there? Amazon has shut it down, right? And the FDA said you can't do it. But I mean, tell us the story about NAC. How long has it been around for? And why did the FDA finally say you can't have it?
Well, it's been around, according to the evidence that's been submitted to FDA, as early as 1991. That's the date that I'm seeing. In dietary supplements. That was before passage of DSHEA.
Pre-DSHEA, exactly. Yeah. So grandfather, right? Hello.
Right. 2020, FDA came out with warning letters to companies making hangover claims, and that's when FDA said, hey, NAC was first approved as a drug in 1963. Drug comes first, supplement comes second. Therefore, supplement, you cannot be in the marketplace.
So hold on, wait. So there is the grandfather proviso in DSHEA, but the FDA is saying there's the, what are we calling it? The preclusion that trumps the grandfather? Is that their position? Is that what we're talking here?
Well, so the grandfather clause in the law, that just goes to the safety burden. So if it's a new dietary ingredient, unless it's subject to a specific exemption, then you have to file with FDA and establish that it's reasonably expected to be safe. If it's been in the marketplace, not chemically altered, for example, before 1994, before Duché, it's presumed safe, and there's no requirement to demonstrate safety to the FDA. That's a separate issue from this drug exclusion, which deals with.
So it's safe.
Drug comes first, the supplement can't be marketed, period.
So, I mean, when doesn't the statute of limitations kick in after 7 years? Like the FDA can string this thing out. I mean, how it's been on the market for longer than I've been alive, and I'm no spring chicken. And they just come around with this. I mean,
I think it's a really great argument. I mean, I think a lot of stakeholders would say, yeah, this is ridiculous. It's been on the market for decades, and now you're going to try to take it off the market. But I think here's where we stand. 2 citizen petitions were filed with FDA.
By CRN, right?
CRN and NPA. We also have a lawsuit filed by NPA against FDA. That's pending. You know, who knows what happens with that. But FDA, in its request for comments in a constituent update in November, said, hey, we want some additional information on the past use of NAC. And by the way, we'll consider this information, potentially consider this information as well as additional information in pondering a potential rulemaking. So rulemaking, we've done rulemaking since Duché was passed to make a drug lawful in supplements. This could be the first time FDA does that because there's so much support for NAC in the market.
But I'm thinking there's now NAC, interestingly enough. So it just from a health perspective, it kind of kicks in the body's glutathione, which is a real detoxification thing. And so that's why I guess it's used, you know, for hangovers and things like that, it's used for liver injury, you know, used as an antioxidant, you know, kind of powerful stuff. And you're right, a lot of companies use it, but you know what a lot of companies use that all of a sudden that's even more than that in the same situation. Hello, talk about letters, CBD, right?
I'm glad you brought that. I'm glad you brought that up. But you know, the distinction that people are making is with CBD, FDA has raised acute safety concerns. Whether we agree or whether industry agrees is a separate issue. With NAC,
there is no safety.
Unanimous opinion is, hey, there's no safety concerns here. There's no. We're not concerned about safety. It's been in the market for decades. Consumers are getting health benefits. Why are you targeting this ingredient? Industry's perspective.
I hear that, but it seems like, you know, the European Union has said that CBD is safe, and so right. You know, I think we could eventually get to the point where it's like we can demonstrate the safety, but then and then so now we're in the same situation as we are with NAC, right? You know, where it's like we have this preclusion issue. Speaking of having words stumble out of my mouth, go ahead, Josh. Say N-acetylcysteine 3 times.
N-acetylcysteine, N-acetylcysteine, N-acetylcysteine.
Oh, you got it. That's great. That's all we have time for right now is Josh.
Right.
Josh, thanks for checking in with us right now. And speaking of regulatory stuff, we have a nice little special bit from our friend Asa Waldstein, who is this great person to have on your team. And I think he's a consultant, so he could be yours, just about regulatory issues and in dealing with the FDA. And he put together a nice little 2-minute video on warning letters that you might receive from FDA and how to avoid them. Charlie, run that for us right now, would you?
What are the reasons why we want to avoid an FDA warning letter? And I find this to be really useful. You can share this with your company officers, your CEO, your marketing team, your investors, whomever. You can share it with them as a way to help build this culture of compliance within the company. So one, it requires legal resources to respond to. You should hire an attorney. You have to respond within 15 days, unless it's a COVID-related warning letter, and then you only have 48 hours to respond. It also takes your eyes off the prize. Imagine the mental bandwidth it takes to think about responding to an FDA warning letter. It really takes your attention away from growing your company. It's also super embarrassing. It's a matter of public record. Can you imagine your name or your company's name memorialized forever in FDA warning letter history, and it does rank really high on the search engines. Your name or company name will show up forever and ever. Also, repeat warning letters, they could lead to injunction, seizure, really, really serious ramifications. Also, this is really important. In this day and age, there's so much mergers and acquisition happening in our industry. And the easiest way to scare away investors is by getting a warning letter. This includes acquisitions, this includes strategic partnerships. Again, this is really, really important. And as I've talked to people, I've been in the conference room or the boardroom, and I brought up reasons why you want to avoid a warning letter. This is really the big light bulb moment here that people think of and say, oh yeah, that makes sense. I don't want to lose the opportunity to raise outside capital, for example, by getting a warning letter. And last but not least, class action attorneys. Plaintiff attorneys oftentimes use warning letters as the basis of wrongdoing in their class action lawsuits. We'll see a bunch of warning letters come out, and then class action lawsuits will certainly follow.
All right, Asa, thank you so much for that. Really appreciate that little tidbit of wisdom right there for us. Very nice. Now we're going to tune into a nice little conversation that I had with Danielle Citrolo from Kiyowahaco, USA, which is the winner of the best immunity ingredient of the year, as seen at Supply Side West 2021 last October at Supply Side West. And learn a little bit, kids, about the Immuse branded ingredient. Roll them. Hey, everybody. This is a really cool part of the show because we have with us, at Supply Side West in Las Vegas, we had a new show called Ingredient Idol. And we have with us the winner of the immunity category for the best immunity supplement style ingredient. And the ingredient name is Immuse, and it is from Kiyowahaco, USA. And we have with us Danielle Citrolo, and she's a PharmD, and she's the VP of Scientific and Regulatory Affairs at Kiyowahaco. Danielle, thanks for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me, Todd.
Yeah. So immunity is decidedly a thing, here in COVID land. People are taking immunity supplements are kind of the new multi, there's like this 365 immunity ingredient. And so let's talk about Immuse. Just first off, when did that launch into the US market?
Well, we launched it actually a little over a year ago, September 2020, here in the US.
Got it. And so it got its start in Japan, right? Like that's where it cut its teeth.
Yeah, so it's not a new product in Japan. It's been on the market for many years, I think 9 or so years. So it's been around for a while, and it's seen a lot of use there, actually.
Yeah, and actually in Japan, in that regulatory model, it has a health claim there, right? So
yes.
What does it say in Japan? Like what can brands say there? I know you can't say it in the US market, and we'll get to that, but what does it say in Japan?
Yeah, and just to make a note, actually, it's the first product in Japan to be able to make a health claim for immune health. So, and so I don't believe there are any others at this time that actually have a health claim. So we're the first and I believe the only, the last I checked. And so it's part of functional food health claim. And the specific claim is that it supports the maintenance of immune systems in healthy individuals. So that's the claim that they can use. There's no other products at the moment that can support health claim in the immune category at the moment.
So that sounds a whole lot like a structure function claim in the US market.
Yep, very similar. Yep, but it takes a lot more. It's very difficult to get a health claim in Japan, as you know, no other products have it. So, and it took the company, a lot of effort to get that claim.
Cool. So let's dig in a little. Immuse is a postbiotic. Now, everyone by now knows what a probiotic is, and prebiotics, which is kind of the lunchbox for the probiotics. People are, even that's trickling down into the consumer market. I think people are understanding what a prebiotic now. Now we have this postbiotic. So what's a postbiotic?
So it's, the definition was actually just recently defined by ISAP in May, and they call it, an inanimate or non-viable microorganism or components of that confer a health benefit in the human. So it's basically either non-viable microbes or non-viable microbes, or even maybe components of that microbe that ultimately give a benefit to the human.
Yeah, right. Because for a probiotic, it has to be live, active bacteria that can, at certain doses, confer as a health benefit upon the host. So dead or alive, these bacteria can have effects. That's really interesting, right?
Yeah, the mechanism can be the same dead or alive depending on it, but obviously more useful if it's not alive, because you don't have to worry about stability, because the probiotics have to be alive in order to confer a benefit, right?
Yeah. So, and does that also include, like, when I used to think of postbiotics, I was thinking like the the end product, sort of like the excretion, if you will, of a probiotic. Is that right?
Yeah, so I mean, the metabolites themselves,
Metabolites. That was the word. Thank you.
I think generally what the opinion was is that metabolites are metabolites, and they're not necessarily postbiotics, is the understanding, because I also had the same understanding as you. So it's really more non-viable microorganisms fit the category more so than metabolites, because the metabolites you would just call a metabolite, is what I understand. But within the definition, they do say and thereof, so there could be maybe components of maybe the microbe that are actually part of the microbe, maybe that also confer a benefit.
Right. So
Yeah.
are postbiotic like probiotics, in that they can have benefits based on the strain that they are? You know, like probiotics now, there's lots of different health effects, right?
Yes, exactly. Like actually our Amuse is a lactococcus lactis, it's lactic acid bacteria, and there's many strains of that type of bacteria. They're common in yogurts and so on and so forth, but no other strain under lactic acid bacteria have the benefit that Amuse has. So it's very strain specific, actually. And we're learning more and more, as you know.
Wow, that's super cool. So, I mean, that to me says that there's this whole new frontier of postbiotics that is probably going to grow into its own category. I mean, is that?
Absolutely. And even just being in Supply Side West this year, which was so fun to be there, but like just seeing that, I actually was seeing a lot of postbiotic mentions throughout the show, which I was surprised, because it is an up and coming category, but there's more, they're out there more so than we even know. And I think it's only going to get bigger and bigger.
Wow, that's cool. So 2022 hot ingredient postbiotic. That's a cool
Definitely.
category. I love it. So how is it produced? And are all postbiotics produced the same way?
Well, we produce it by cell culture. So you're, growing the cells like you would any other microorganism. Even probiotics are probably made that way. So if you're growing a cell, cell culture, obviously it's not Petri dish like maybe we remember from biology days. We're talking more large scale. And then we go through with our product, it's viable when we're growing it, and then it goes through a heat treatment process where we are able to heat treat the cells and kill them, so they're non-viable. Yes.
Right. So let's talk about how this Amuse postbiotic work. It's kind of like an orchestrator of immune cell activation. Do I have that right?
Yeah. So actually, it wasn't by mistake that they found this strain. It was after, understanding and researching the PDC cell, which is a cell that is known to kind of orchestrate the response in the immune system and kind of get all the different cells, like the natural killer cells, the T cells, the B cells, kind of all working together in order to respond to an invader. So understanding that PDC cell and how pivotal it would be to be able to influence that PDC cell to be activated is how Amuse was actually found. So this ingredient, this specific microorganism, is actually, ingested and goes into the small intestine, and there's a cell that brings it into a Peyer's patch, which is like a very active immune kind of section in the small intestine, outside the small intestine. And it's in the Peyer's patch that the Amuse meets the PDC cell and activates it. And then from there, they're kind of on guard. They're not ready to go. They're not all automatically secreting, to activate all the other cells. They're kind of just heightened awareness, like, hey, be on guard in case. So they're kind of pre-activated or pro-activated in a sense, those PDC cells. So when confronted with an invader, they're ready to go. Their guard is up. They're armed and ready. So you kind of get a quicker response potentially to an invader and maybe prevent or minimize the impact of, sickness.
That's cool. And it's a pretty impressive research dossier. There's like 24 published studies and at least a dozen human clinical studies. So talk a little bit about practical clinical effects. Like what are we talking exactly? How is it going to help people's immune system?
Yeah, so it has, like you said, it has 11 clinical studies looking at the health benefits. And really, we saw, a lot of repetition in the studies in terms of looking at health benefit outcomes in cold and flu situations. So we're looking at fever, cough, just overall malaise, like all the different symptoms that come with cold and flu, diagnosis of cold and flu. And again, there's about 6 to 7 studies kind of repetitively looking at the benefits during cold and flu season, in subjects. And basically what we're seeing, consistently and repetitively is we're lowering the incidence and the symptoms related. So very good results.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then there was this really cool epidemiological study that compared 2 towns, right? And like one took it and one didn't. Talk about that, because I loved hearing about that.
Yeah, that one is actually my favorite as well. So what they did was they gave it to school-age children. So elementary and middle school. In one town, they gave it only 3 times a week. And technically all the other studies were daily. So just 3 times a week to these school-age children. And they compared the incidence of cold and flu due to basically they tracked the absences due to cold and flu, and it had to be diagnosed, as compared to another town. And they compared, basically the absences, and it was reduced significantly in the elementary school. There was a trend in the middle school, but the total between middle school and elementary school was statistically different as compared to the neighboring town, which was really cool. And it was only 3 times a week. So
that is totally super cool. I love hearing studies about this with these nutritional bioactives where, you could decrease the severity or the duration, and especially when you see studies where they'll go into like childcare settings or even elementary schools like this. And it's like, wow, this actually makes a real difference in people's lives. That's really great. And it's at a fairly low dose, right? Like 50 milligrams, is that it? So
yeah, it's only 50 milligrams, which just makes it great to it can go in with other ingredients. And then, if you have an immune health product and you just want to kind of add it as well, it works really good.
So, and is this grass, and is it just a supplement thing, or is it good to go in like beverages, like shots are a thing now, you could take immunity shots,
So it is self-grass. We have self-grass. It was, like I said, it's been used in Japan for many years. So we're pretty certain it's safe. And yeah, it's because it's non-viable, we can, easily work with it. It can go in capsules, tablets, gummies, stick powders, shots, things like that. It's very easy to work with.
I love that. And especially like the study, only 3 days a week and not daily, because there is that, people space and they don't always take the supplements every day. So even if you just kind of like, all right, I didn't get it every day, but like most days, that, at least according to that one study, that's going to have real effects. So that's super exciting, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the adult studies are mostly daily, and most of our claims are based on daily for adults, but in that setting with the children, it was only 3 times a week.
Yeah, cool. So, it's fashionable to say, okay, well, all the studies were done in the Japanese population. And so here we are marketing it in the North American population, and they're not exactly the same audience, but so what's your response to that? With all the studies just on that Japanese population, here you are marketing it in the US.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And, we do want to confirm the data in the, the North American population. That said, mechanistically, we understand how this ingredient works and the immune system down to the genetic level. So we don't believe that how how it's able to activate PDC cells would be any different within, Japanese population as compared to a North American population.
Yeah. So I love how you have both like on a mechanism of action sense for how it works inside the body, inside the cells, maybe even on the genetic level. And then you also have on a clinical basis where it's like, well, we gave it to the school kids and they're not getting sick as much. So so we understand how it works, and then we understand, wow, significant effects, right? So that's pretty nice right there, like a nice research dossier you've got.
It's amazing from a scientific perspective.
Yeah. And so did I hear it's in CVS? Is that so? That's like pretty big time, right?
Yeah, CVS actually launched with private label. They have two products. I believe one is in combination with the vitamin C, which is a popular product also in Japan. And then the other is, I think it's a combination with a few different immune health products, ingredients with Amuse, I think called the Max Power. So very exciting.
Cool. And those are CVS own label,
Yep,
yes.
private label CVS. Yep.
Yeah. That's great. So you guys you're in the mainstream, in the mass market, so getting some good traction there, right? So
yeah, and hopefully more to come.
yeah, I love it. So the ingredient winner is Amuse in the ingredient category for Ingredient Idol at Supply Side West. Danielle Citrolo, PharmD, VP of Scientific and Regulatory Affairs at Kia Oaxaca, USA. Always a great suite of ingredients from Kia Oaxaca. And so it's great to see. It was great to see you live, at Supply Side West and to learn about new ingredients here. Danielle, thanks for joining us today and talking to us about Amuse.
Thanks for having me, Todd.
All right. We'll see you all next time. Thanks for joining us here on Insider in the Afternoon.
Sustainable materials, traceable lots. Let's enforce this shade, 'cause it's all that we've got. And you